It's so easy to look back at our lives, the choices we made, and wonder about, well, the road not taken.
That Robert Frost poem, right. Two roads diverging. It's such a common feeling.
It is. But what if the real journey, the most profound one, isn't about picking path A or path B? What if it's about forging a path that basically wasn't even there before?
That's exactly what we're getting into today, really understanding our own personal journeys and the archetypal patterns that guide us, sometimes without us even realizing it. We're drawing a lot from Clay Boykin's work here.
Yeah, our sources include some really compelling excerpts from his upcoming book, The Mandala Within, a guide for intuitive and logical minds. It's due out in early November, apparently. And we've got some related stuff woven in, too.
And the goal, really, for this deep dive is to explore how these ancient patterns, these big universal stories, connect with your story, how they can unlock, meaning and wholeness in your own life.
Okay, so let's jump right in. Clay Boykin talks about how that Frost poem, The Road Not Taken, really hit home for him, even when he was young.
He mentions standing at that fork in the road lots of times, feeling that pull towards the path less traveled.
But here's the twist. He didn't just want the less traveled path. He felt this longing for a path that, as he put it, hadn't yet been made. Something entirely new.
That's a really significant shift, isn't it? It's not just choosing differently, it's creating the options.
He talks about when he decided to join the Marine Corps, which he says was starkly out of character for
Yeah.
him.
And a friend who knew him really well actually rewrote the ending of the Frost poem for him. It went something like, two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both.
So impetuously, I cried, "To hell with decisions!" and struck off through the woods. I love that.
To hell with decisions. It just cuts right through that binary, doesn't it?
It really does. It suggests maybe real courage isn't just picking the unpopular path, but maybe throwing the map away sometimes.
Finding a third way or a fourth way that isn't even presented as an option, even if it means, like he says, crashing through the underbrush.
Exactly. It takes guts, though, to trust yourself when there's no clear path marked out.
It really forces you to define your own direction. You're not choosing, you're creating.
So maybe think for a second. Have you ever had moments like that? Where you just felt this need to create a completely new way forward, instead of just picking option A or B, that kind of, well, messy but necessary detour.
And the interesting thing is, even when we go off map like that, these journeys often echo really old universal patterns.
You mean like Joseph Campbell's hero's journey?
Exactly. The monomyth, it's everywhere. Old myths, scriptures, even blockbuster movies. The call to adventure, the road of trials, the big ordeal, the return.
You know the stages. But it's easy to forget they play out in our regular lives too, right? Not just in epics.
Definitely. It's not always about slaying dragons. Sometimes it's about, starting a new project or facing a personal fear.
Right. And Campbell's journey often feels quite outward focused, like achieving something, mastering the world.
Which is why Maureen Murdoch's work on the heroine's journey is such an important counterpoint. It offers a different lens.
Hers is more about the internal quest, isn't it? Reconciling masculine and feminine energies inside oneself to find wholeness.
Precisely. It often starts with separating from the traditionally feminine, maybe embracing more masculine traits to succeed in the world.
Like leaning into ambition, logic, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And that leads to the road of trials, maybe achieving external success, getting the job, the recognition, but feeling like something vital is missing. A kind of disillusionment sets in.
Ah, okay. And that feeling, that gap, that's the trigger.
Often, yes, it can lead to this descent, a turning inward, a rediscovery or revaluing of intuition, emotion, connection. The aspects may be pushed aside earlier. It's about reconnecting.
So the goal becomes healing and integration, bringing those masculine and feminine aspects together, finding balance.
Exactly. So you see the contrast. Campbell often highlights outward mastery, while Murdoch emphasizes inward integration and reclaiming parts of the self.
And it's really important we mention the source material makes this clear. These frameworks aren't rigid boxes.
Absolutely. For anyone who identifies as non-binary, gender fluid, gender expansive, these archetypes might show up differently, maybe as a blend or even a completely distinct journey.
The point is, we're all somewhere on the spectrum, and these are tools to help you find your unique path, whatever that looks like.
So as you listen, think about your own life. Do you see these rhythms, departure, challenge, transformation, return? How do they resonate with your own cycles?
Because we all go through them, consciously or not.
We do. But sometimes that lone hero story just doesn't quite fit, does it?
What do you mean?
Well, what if the deepest journey isn't just about you against the world, or even you wrestling with your own inner stuff in isolation? What if it's about the complex relationship between different parts of you?
Okay, now that sounds interesting.
Clay Boykin mentions this conversation he had with his psychologist friend Howard Teach. Howard wrote Solar Light, Lunar Light: Perspectives in Human Consciousness. And Howard apparently challenged Clay to look deeper into alchemy and saw another pattern emerging in Clay's work: the myth of the twin heroes.
Twin heroes. Okay, tell me more.
So unlike the single hero going it alone, the twin hero myth is all about the sacred tension between opposites. It's about integration, not one side conquering the other.
Like an inner dialogue playing out.
Exactly. These stories aren't just adventures, they're reflections of that internal back and forth. Finding wholeness not by eliminating one part, but by getting them into conversation, into relationship, even when it's uncomfortable.
Like Romulus and Remus. Is that an example?
That's a classic, yeah. Twin brothers, myth says they were raised by a wolf, set out to build a city.
But they clashed, right? And Romulus ended up killing Remus.
He did, and Rome was founded on that division. Symbolically, you can see Remus as representing the wild, intuitive, maybe more relational side connected to nature.
And Romulus is the order, the structure, the drive to build and control.
Mm-hmm. It's a powerful illustration of how that binary thinking gets set up, elevating one aspect, like order or logic, and exiling the other, the intuitive or relational.
And you're saying this plays out inside us, even if we're not, founding empires.
Definitely. The source material points to a few ways. Often, these inner twins really come to the fore after some kind of life-altering event.
Like a loss or a big change.
Exactly. One part of you might want to just cling to what's familiar, what feels safe, but another part feels this pull, this call towards something deeper, maybe riskier.
I can see that. The tension between the bold part and the cautious part, or the planner versus the dreamer.
Yes. Or the rational mind versus the intuitive hunch. They create friction, sure, but that's where the energy is. Real growth comes from letting them interact, inform each other, not letting one completely shut the other down.
So growth isn't just a straight line up. Sometimes the strategist needs to be in charge. Other times the mystic, the dreamer.
You need both. The journey requires both aspects to navigate whatever you're facing, internal or external. And eventually, something often has to be let go of.
Like an old identity. Or a belief that doesn't fit anymore.
Right, a kind of symbolic death to make room for a more integrated whole self to emerge.
It's funny, you see this twin dynamic everywhere once you look. Pop culture is full of it.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, maybe. Or Frodo and Gollum. Even Elsa and Anna in Frozen, that kind of tension and connection.
Good examples, and even in neuroscience, right?
Yeah.
The left brain, right brain duality, logic and creativity, analysis and intuition, it's a fundamental pattern.
Clay Boykin talks about seeing it in himself very clearly. He said, the part shaped by discipline and the part drawn to wonder.
The achiever and the questioner.
The one who leads and the one who listens.
Yeah.
And his point is, these aren't enemies, they're partners. They need to be integrated.
That's such a key insight. Wholeness doesn't come from being perfect or ironing out all the kinks. It comes from the relationship between these inner parts.
The messy, dynamic relationship.
Right, like the center of a mandala. It's where the opposites meet, not to cancel out, but to create something new through their interaction.
Okay, so this really leads us nicely into the power of narrative, doesn't it? The stories we tell ourselves about ourselves.
Absolutely. They shape our lives, often in ways we don't even realize. But the exciting part is, if a story isn't serving you anymore, maybe you can rewrite it.
And that's where Clay Boykin's book, The Mandala Within, comes in. It's designed as a guide for exactly that.
Yeah, he's a transformational author, speaker, thought leader. He helps people create what he calls an inner mandala.
An inner mandala, what does that mean exactly?
Think of it like a personal map of your own psyche. It's a framework to help you organize your thoughts, see the connections between experiences, feelings, those archetypes we've been talking about.
So it helps bring your inner narrative out where you can see it and maybe work with it.
Precisely. It helps you recenter that narrative. He's also a thought coach. By the way, you can find him at clayboyton.com.
He shares a really powerful personal story that shows this narrative shift in action. It starts with Joseph Campbell's observation about JFK's assassination.
Campbell saw it not just as a political event, but as a mythic rupture, something that cracked the whole country's story, its sense of self.
And the ripples went wide. For Clay, just 3 weeks after Kennedy was killed, it was Friday the 13th of December, 1963. He was 9 years old, and he was hit by a car.
Wow. He only had fragments of memory about it.
Right, until years later in a counseling session, he was guided back to that time. And suddenly it connected to another later tragedy, the death of his high school girlfriend, Nancy. She was killed in an auto pedestrian accident, too.
Oh, that's heavy. How did they connect?
The counselor asked him, seemingly out of the blue, to apologize to Nancy. He was confused at first,
I can imagine.
but then the words survivor's guilt came up,
Mhm.
and he said it was like a door opened inside him.
Oh.
He realized he had been carrying this unspoken belief deep down that he shouldn't have survived the accident when Nancy didn't survive hers.
Mm.
Like he owed a debt he could never pay.
Wow. And that belief, that hidden narrative, must have just colored everything.
Exactly. That's the crucial point.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about feeling guilty. It was a story that was subtly shaping his choices, maybe even limiting his joy for decades without him consciously knowing it.
He even found something related in his yearbook.
Yeah, he realized later that lyrics from Don McLean's song Crossroads about being at a difficult turning point had been overlaid on his photo in the high school yearbook.
Incredible. So naming the guilt, seeing the narrative, that was the turning point.
It was. It allowed a shift. It wasn't just about saying sorry to Nancy. It was about forgiving himself, honoring her life and his own right to live fully,
Yeah.
moving from living in, like, quiet atonement to...
Living in continuation, presence, love,
Yeah.
meaning.
Exactly. And he makes this fascinating connection. His own trauma, Nancy's death, JFK's assassination. They weren't causally linked, obviously, but he felt they were linked archetypally.
Like Campbell said, the collective myth cracks open, and our personal myths can crack open too, revealing these hidden layers.
It's pretty profound. And there's a kind of closing chapter to this story.
Yeah.
38 years later, he's recovering from heart surgery. And he gets a visit from Lucy Johnson.
President Lyndon B. Johnson's daughter.
Yes. Along with his wife, Lori, who was actually Lucy's assistant at the time. And Lucy and Lori gently wrapped him in a comforter.
That sounds like a simple gesture, but...
It was deeply symbolic for him. It closed a circle that had been open since 1963. The child who survived just after the national trauma was now being cared for, comforted, by the daughter of the president who led the country through that grief.
Wow. That's powerful.
He said it brought this incredible sense of peace. It allowed him to finally live forward, not in atonement, but in peace. And that's really what the inner Mandala work is about, mapping these deep connections, seeing the stories, so you can consciously choose how to live them forward.
What an amazing illustration of how finding and reframing your personal narrative can genuinely change your experience of life.
It really is.
So we've touched on quite a bit today, these universal journey patterns, the heroes and heroines' paths, that inner tension of the twin heroes, and the sheer power of the stories we live by.
And how tools like Clay Boykin's inner Mandala concept can act as a guide through all that complexity.
Understanding these ideas, really letting them sink in, can genuinely help you navigate the chaos we all face sometimes. Find a bit more harmony.
Yeah, and maybe unlock some creativity and wisdom that's been waiting in the wings. It's not just about getting through things. It's about shaping your story, living with purpose.
So here's something to maybe chew on after you finish listening. As you look at your own path, that unique road you're forging, what's a supreme ordeal you've already navigated? What gifts, what gold did you uncover in that process?
And maybe, are you ready to answer your own next call to adventure, whatever that might be?
If this resonated with you and you want to explore more, definitely check out Clay Boykin's work. His book, again, is The Mandala Within, a guide for intuitive and logical minds, out early November.
And you can also find out about his thought coaching over at clayboykin.com. Definitely worth exploring.